What's going on, guys? Thanks for tuning in to another episode of the Stoner and Stokesy show, episode 2. And what a good week to be doing another episode. Adam, market's been popping. How does it feel to be back?
Mate, huge week, and thank you to all the subscribers out there. Great feedback. And one of my first questions that we've got to figure out on episode 2, is it the Stokesy and Stoner show, the Stoner and Stokesy synopsis, or vice versa in either one? We're putting this to you, the people. You tell us, what should we name this bloody thing in episode 2? We look forward to figuring that
out. Sounds good. All right, guys. Well, thanks for tuning in. Stick around and let's get into the show. So, Adam, what a week. I mean, like, since we did the last episode, which I thoroughly enjoyed and couldn't wait to come back and do another one, it's been an interesting week in the markets. We kind of saw like a few days going sideways, and I've just checked today, checked the charts, and we've got a massive amount of green. We've got market caps popped up to $188 billion. Bitcoin is just a whisker away from hitting $6,000. Things are feeling good. There's a lot of good sentiment. People going around saying that market's now on the recovery. A lot of analytical firms and a lot of investment firms are now saying we're out of the bear market into the beginning of a bull market. How are you feeling at the moment? What's your take?
Stoner, great to be back. And yes, it's been a huge week. First of all, a big shout out to everyone who's supporting the work that we're doing here. And thank you for the feedback to our subscribers. Someone put out a suggestion that during these conversations, we answer the questions from the people. So to our viewers and subscribers, please do send through these questions, and Stoney and I will be sure to get on them.
We will.
But to answer your question, Bo, I have been flat out watching YouTube videos all week. It is just go, go, go on the markets. The volume is big, so we can see the cap is big, and the market cap is looking good collectively. But what I really want to start off with, unfortunately, let's start on the low, is bloody Tether. We need to talk about Tether because this is, I think, probably the biggest bad thing, if you will, for crypto since good old BitConnect. Now, Tether, in work with Bitfinex, I don't know if you've heard, mate, but they're releasing an IEO. So this is a bailout. This is a bailout for themselves. Or before they did a bail-in, Bitfinex did a bail-in where they made basically everyone take a 30% hit on all their wallets to deal with the mess that they had made.
They did.
Now they're doing a bail-in or a bailout, depending on who you're looking at, where the money is going, where we know the AG, the Attorney General in New York, is putting pressure on Bitfinex. And in response to get this money that doesn't exist, so they're saying, well, where's this money? So they're now releasing an IEO. So that's just a new version of an ICO to the subscribers that may not have heard that term. Before, we had an initial coin offering. Now we've got initial exchange offerings, which is essentially the same thing.
Rebranded. It's just rebranded.
Yeah, it's just a rename to the same thing. But I warn the people out there, this is a really serious situation because they're trying to raise $1 billion to bail themselves out of this situation. And my prediction is they're going to raise $1 billion. They're going to pull the pin, throw smoke, and just run. And they're going to run and, mysteriously die in India, and there'll be no one to get this money back. So be careful with what's happening with Tether and Bitfinex. And my thoughts, because I don't give financial advice, and we don't give financial advice on this channel, but my thoughts are, guys, stay away from Tether. If you've got anything in there, get out of there before you have no choice. And when it comes to Bitfinex, stay away from that. And the IEO is called, I believe it's called Leo, as in Leo the lion. So if you see a coin offering or an IEO for Leo, stay away. It's a bailout.
Yeah, I think that's some good tips there, Adam. Like we discussed last week, and you've looked into Tether extensively. I watched a little bit of your video the other day. I've looked into Tether extensively, quite some time ago, and I think just from a high level, when you kind of analyze the risk on something, when you see some shady practices, perhaps unethical practices, immoral practices, and then you see this action by the Attorney General, a picture is starting to be painted here. And I think that anyone that's going to be anywhere near this dumpster fire just needs to be extremely careful and aware of exactly what they're getting themselves into. And remember, and I'm not making any accusations whatsoever, but when a company or a person for that matter is under duress and stress, they may make irrational decisions. Whether this IEO is an irrational decision or not, I'll put that out to the people to think so. But to me, it's something that I want to keep a wide berth from.
Yeah, you raise a good point, and it was actually put out there that this is being done quite hastily. So they're trying to push this IEO out there because it's like a last ditch attempt, as before the plane crashes into the ground, they're trying to put the last bit of power in there to try and climb out of it. It's bad news. But moving forward, Bo, to get more positive, I've heard some good things about Fidelity. What's happening over there?
Yeah, Adam, so we've got an article here from CoinDesk, Fidelity to roll out crypto trading within a few weeks. So it says here that financial services giant Fidelity Investments is said to be launching cryptocurrency trading service soon. A person familiar with the matter told Bloomberg that Fidelity will be rolling out the service for trading Bitcoin within a few weeks and will focus on institutional, not retail customers. So a spokeswoman from Fidelity told Bloomberg that we currently have a select set of clients we're supporting on our platform. We will continue to roll out our services over the coming weeks and months based on our clients' needs, jurisdictions, and other factors. Currently, our service offering is focused on Bitcoin. Now, I think this is a big deal, not just because Fidelity is essentially providing a gateway to Bitcoin and thus intrinsically cryptocurrencies to its institutional clients, but it's a huge indicator that a financial giant is essentially endorsing Bitcoin. That's what they're doing. They wouldn't be creating these products if they didn't get behind it. Now, in saying that, these financial institutions are out there to make money. That's their primary goal. It's the primary objective, is to make money for the company and their shareholders. But to have an American-based financial giant such as Fidelity getting behind Bitcoin in this way is a signal that they're comfortable enough with regulators' stance on Bitcoin to the point where they want to start offering this to institutional clients. Now, on a more sort of relative scale in terms of what this could do for Bitcoin, imagine you have a bunch of people wanting to run through a door. The door has been partially opened and only one person every few hours can come in. So when someone like Fidelity comes along, the analogy is they're opening the door for people to run in. Replace the people with the money, replace whatever's behind the door with Bitcoin. That's essentially what I think we could see happen. And I think it's important also just to put some context on how big Fidelity is. They've currently got $2.46 trillion assets under management, AUM. So we're talking about a pretty big player here.
Yeah, I heard Crypto Chico, one of a guy over, I think he's in Miami. He was also talking about this platform also doing DeFi. I was talking to you before, I couldn't remember what it was, but that's decentralized finance. So the decentralized finance through this site as well could be something quite big to look at. And it's only a matter of time before, it's kind of already started with smart contracts, but it's inevitable as the banks collapse, financing any type of project, whether it's small or big, right down, I think, to, like a credit card, financing is going to be part of the future of crypto. And that is also part of this project. Have you heard also, Bo, about what's happening in the world of Litecoin with the great halving coming up? So that the 6th of August, we see Litecoin halving. If you're not familiar with that, subscribers, that's where, of course, your mining reward for however much reward you get, it's going to go from 25 Litecoins for every successful block down to 12.5, and that's happening on the 6th of August. And that in my prediction is going to see a price rise. And what could be dangerous with that, though, is it could be people buying the rumor to sell the news. But I mean, you've been in the game for a while, Bo, if you think about Litecoin, you've got these big players. Litecoin's always been up there. You know, Bitcoin, Litecoin, and Ethereum. We've got Ripple, but let's not talk about that one. That's that's an outlier. But what are your thoughts on Litecoin, mate?
Yeah, well, look, good you asked, Adam. I did a video on the Litecoin halving back in January, and amazingly, thank you to the Google algorithms, they actually, my videos are number one recommended when people search for
I'll check
Litecoin
it out.
halving. Thank you, algorithms. But yeah, look, when you have, and this is a thing I've seen play out in the past 2 years, is halvening events or block reward reduction events really depend on, I think, the market at the time. So a good example is the recent Ethereum block reward reduction. So what we saw is the market priced in that event 2 to 3 weeks leading into when it actually happened. In about 3 days before the actual block reward reduction happened, the market started to correct it. So it actually priced that event in before it happened, and people who had made profits got out before the event happened itself. Now, the thing with Litecoin, I think, is Litecoin has been around for a long time. It's a major player. It's up there in the top 10 by market cap. And following Litecoin's halvening, we have Bitcoin halvening next year in May. Now, we know based on previous data that Bitcoin halvening events have been significant in terms of price action, and that's because Bitcoin's purpose is both as a store of value and a medium of exchange. People do use Bitcoin as money, or money is a store of value and a medium of exchange, but people also just want to buy it and hodl it. So when you have that use case with a crypto that is becoming more scarce by 50%, essentially, well, the new coins coming into circulation are reducing by 50%, you do see, or you have seen in the past, price action. So I think it's a positive thing and could be a major event to turn this market around quickly by a huge way.
Great point. That in itself could be a trigger. And so there's so many things combined. In my opinion, we've got this perfect storm forming. Like, all the projects are coming together. We're squeezing out the bloody Tether and Bitfinex. That's a bad player being squeezed out of the market. But we've got all these huge projects coming together. And the reality is billionaires and millionaires are buying up huge stocks of crypto. Now, I heard an incredible article today about if every single person bought Bitcoin, it's a correction, if we took every single person on the planet and we divided up Bitcoin between them, provided there was 21 million Bitcoins, which is not anymore because we've lost about 4 million. But if there were 21 million, each person would get, I think it was 0.003 of a Bitcoin, making it so scarce amongst everyone. Now, we know that we've lost 4 million, and we've also know that there's millionaires and billionaires buying thousands of these things. I don't think anyone's got 1 million Bitcoins. Has anyone got 1 million Bitcoins?
Satoshi.
Checkmate. All right. He doesn't count, but take Satoshi out of the question. And I know you're Satoshi, by the way. So, yeah.
I
but
don't
take
wish.
that out of the equation. This commodity is this asset is so rare that us, as in you and me and everyone who's watching this video right now, they reckon that if you could get just a quarter of a Bitcoin, you're pretty much in a really good position for the big run that's coming up. Noting that some people have thousands of Bitcoins themselves. Now, going back to Litecoin before we move forward, to my original subscribers from day one, I sort of started my channel as a miner. I was really interested in the hobby of mining, and I've got 16 ASIC miners. And the reason why I love Litecoin so much is because on the SHA-256 algorithm, it's so power hungry, like it's out of control. The amount of power that the Bitcoin mining uses and is beyond comprehension. And for anyone who's not sure about the value of a coin, the epitome of proof of work for Bitcoin is that sheer amount of power, the absolute amount of power that's been poured into mining out this coin. Now, when Litecoin was made, what was his name? Who
Charlie
made?
Lee.
Yeah, sorry, Charlie Lee. Now he's actually sold out of Litecoin entirely because he didn't want to be perceived as manipulating the coin or having anything to do with it in a bad light, in the sense that, like Satoshi owned heaps and Charlie Lee owned heaps. He's out of it entirely. But going back to the mining, I love mining Litecoin. It uses so much less power on the script algorithm, whereas Bitcoin on the SHA-256 is just beyond comprehension. So when I started shutting down my miners when the difficulty got too much and the power was too expensive and the price of cryptos went down, I still kept my Litecoin miners going in the background. Why? Because they were using virtually no power, and yet they were still making great returns. So I'm really pumped about this coin, Bo, and I reckon even if people buy in on the news and sell on the event itself, I think that the reality is, like you said, this could actually, combined with other things, trigger the next run.
Well, I bet you are happy. I mean, when we just look back in January when I did the video, I think it was mid-January, it was $30, $32 US. It's now sitting at $76.68, so it's over doubled in price. So this is the thing that I think too, that you've identified with mining that people don't consider. It's almost like they consider the instantaneous liquidation as a return based on the coins, but if you can afford to hold and you offset some of your risk by maybe mining a lower hash rate or lower power consumption coin, and you play the long game of 6 to 12 months, you're going to get your returns if the coin appreciates, and some on top.
Absolutely. And if you actually look at, so the peak of Litecoin, I'm looking at the charts right now, it sort of peaked around, what was it, around
And
$300?
yeah.
So it's currently sitting at around about a quarter of what it was at its peak. And you can see there's, just like Bitcoin and a lot of the powerful altcoins, there's so much room in this coin to move, as there are with all the big boys.
Yeah.
I'd be interested to see where this one's going to come back and beyond.
I think Litecoin will always track Bitcoin to some degree. I remember at one point Litecoin was tracking Bitcoin, I think, by a quarter of the value people were saying. It's obviously not that at the moment, it's far less. But I think you're going to see some correlation between Litecoin and Bitcoin, just because it is one of the titans. It is one that has been around for a long time, that works, that it is a good method of exchange. But ultimately, if you were to compare Litecoin to Bitcoin, maybe as a pure HODL perspective, Bitcoin's always going to have the hardness factor over Litecoin, just being the sheer amount of energy required to produce one Bitcoin. And that's where it gets its real intrinsic value from, is the sheer amount of work that goes into it through the mining process.
Agreed. And you combine that with the first to market and the brand that is Bitcoin. It's funny, in many conversations I have just with the general public, if you will, when I say, oh, crypto, they're like, oh, does that mean Bitcoin? So they actually many people haven't made the distinction between crypto and Bitcoin. They just think it's all Bitcoin, and, well, Bitcoin is crypto, but they just think Bitcoin is all of it. They don't understand this whole world, and that it speaks volumes for the power of the brand. The brand is so powerful that it represents the entire crypto space. But you were talking before about something Munger said. What was he talking about before?
So Charlie Munger, I'm sure people have heard this guy's name before. He is one of the either the co-founders or co-board members of the investment firm that Warren Buffett works in. What's it called again? Berkshire Hathaway, that's it?
Hathaway, yeah.
Now, Charlie's come out and he's not a big fan of Bitcoin. He's actually said he was invited to an event by a digital currency investment group, but he knocked it back. He didn't go. He thought, nah, this is too below me. He's not like Nouriel Roubini, who gets invited to every blockchain conference around the world only to rag on blockchain. I'm sitting here thinking, why do people keep inviting this guy back to conferences when he's just ripping on it? But he said that Bitcoin investors celebrate the life and work of Judas Iscariot. Now, I assume he's talking about Judas from the Bible, but I'm not aware of Judas's last name. But he's some other things he said here that he thinks the people who are professional traders that go into trading cryptocurrencies, it is just disgusting. It is like somebody else is trading turds, and you decide I can't be left out. Now, I thought this was a good article to mention because what it shows is a clear delineation between the old world perception of investment and money and the new world. Some of the old world, they just don't get it. Now, I don't want to sit here and say they're not educated. I don't want to sit here and say they're not intelligent, because that is wrong. They are intelligent. They are extremely well educated. But believing in Bitcoin and cryptocurrencies requires a philosophical change from Keynesian economics to Austrian economics. It is a completely different school of thought. If you believe in libertarian ideals, if you believe in free market economics, if you believe in money being dictated as a floating free market currency that is outside of centralized control and manipulation, you're for Bitcoin. On the other hand, if you've been brought up in the old world where government dictates economic policy, where government thinks it's smarter than the free market, and where government wants total control over the rate of inflation and thus the control of production, you're not going to be a big believer in Bitcoin. So I think it's a good article to show that the old world is still there. They're probably always going to be there, but the free market always wins in the long run, and the free market is Bitcoin.
Well said, that man there. And mate, you've just made me remember the baby brains comment. So 12 months ago, Munger made a comment about working with Bitcoin. And I'm looking at I made a video on it, and I'm going to put a link in it. And I ask you to put a link in your channel as well to this video I made. I made it 12 months ago. It hasn't had many views, but it took me ages to edit it. So check it out. It's only 5 minutes. But I took what Charlie Munger said about baby brains.
You didn't really put baby brains in there, did you?
There's no baby brains in there, but there is an image at the end where they're cutting. There's an image at the end. There's a video at the end where they're cutting a baby's head in half, but it's a cake. Some of my subscribers wrote to me saying, "Dude, what the hell, man?" And I'm like, "No, it's a cake." So they make there's this cake artist who makes cakes, and the cakes look so realistic. And I put this little bit. It's only a cake, guys. I'm not cutting up baby brains, but I was putting it there as a shock factor to say how crazy it is what this. This old billionaire, he's much richer than you and I probably put together times a lot. But the reality is, you're dead right. It's this old thinking that it's so set in the ways of how it used to be in the olden days. Like, they said that, I remember one example was, we will never need a telephone because we have messenger boys. The internet will never work. We won't need the printing press. All of these things that we could not survive without at all in a modern world, they were all pushed away. Even you look at Jobs' journey when he was making a lot of his incredible inventions and innovations, they were all sort of suppressed originally, but now we can't live without them. Now, I also remember, Bo, that during that time, I'm having flashbacks here, brother. It's been a long journey, but during that time, you actually made a comment about Munger back then as well, and I thought you were incredibly polite. You were... I was a lot harder making this smart-ass video that I was just speaking about. But I remember you saying in a video something along the lines of, settle down. But it really did, triggers probably a bad word to use, but it kind of did. It triggered a lot of passion within the crypto community. The first time Munger said that dealing with crypto is like dealing with baby brains. And here we are 12 months later, and he's doing the exact same thing again. And I'm certain we will look back at this as another example of the same guy who said, we will never need telephones because we have messenger boys. He, unfortunately, is going to inevitably be one of these guys who said something that will be proven so wrong in history.
Well, I think that these old guys that start getting really kind of tacky and personal with the attacks on Bitcoin and crypto, where I think that stems from is they're financial giants. They know they're well respected. They know that their names, they know they're very famous. And I think they spend their nights racking their brains trying to figure out why Bitcoin is going up and why people keep buying it. And I think it's because Bitcoin keeps proving them wrong. It challenges their ego. It challenges their philosophy. It challenges their 40, 50, sometimes 60 years doing what they're doing. And it can't be easy. The reason I'm generally polite to them is because I still respect them for what they are and what they've done, and I will. And it also doesn't bother me about what they say. Jamie Dimon, Charlie Munger, Warren Buffett, the power
And
of the free
Gates,
market.
don't forget Bill Gates. He got in there
Bill
as
Gates,
well.
the power of the free market will knock these guys flat on their feet silly. You can't, no one can control the free market. If Bitcoin is allowed to thrive, which currently it is, nothing can stop it. Nothing. So I really just have a laugh at when these guys say these comments, because it's like, oh, well, no worries. You're just missing out on gains.
Yeah, and you look at I call them the three amigos, and in that video I refer to them as the three amigos, because you had Munger, Buffett, and Gates. And what really, I think, upset the community was, Gates supposed to be this technologist, if you will, a futurist, a guy with great vision. And you kind of see, as I agree with you, I have immense respect. And when I was doing, my degrees and my masters, some of the stuff that we did looked at Buffett and Munger. How could you not? They're mega powerhouses. But then when you see someone like Gates coming in and backing up this olden day thinking, it created confusion and perhaps conspiracy theories, thinking, well, are these guys putting FUD in the market? And in the background, they're actually, quietly buying all this crypto, keeping that price low, getting as much supply as they can.
I don't think so. Personally,
No.
I don't think so. But I do think that they are, how do I put this? Very much tied to the traditional financial system, which is directly threatened by Bitcoin. Okay, think networks, think business partners, think personal investments, think boards they sit on. I mean, we're talking about the legacy of decades and decades of career in one system. If they even utter the words, Bitcoin is okay, you just know the hate they're going to be copying from their inner circle. So I think some of them, despite them maybe seeing Bitcoin and knowing what it's going to do, they can't publicly say that.
Mm.
It's all about optics. It's all about self-preservation, and that's what they're doing.
And that's where some see them as a sellout. They're trapped, they can't go anywhere. So let's check out our coin picks. So last week, we'll try and make this a section, guys, because we don't give financial advice on this channel, because we don't want to end up in prison or be a BitConnect, Crypto Nick, etc. But we can look at coins and we can talk about how they go, and we can watch the mathematical facts that happens throughout the week in the charts. Now, last week, Bo, you were speaking about BAT, and ever since then, it's like, I remember my dad once saying, when you buy a car, every time you drive, you see that car, because you keep seeing, or if you want to buy a certain car, you keep seeing that car on the roads. And I don't know if it's that case, but every time I'm listening to anything to do with crypto at the moment, after you mentioned BAT, it's constantly up there. They're constantly talking about BAT. So let's check out the BAT chart. So over the last 30 days, I did a coin review recently and I spoke about BAT. In the last 30 days, it did quite well. But we want to check our own work and hold ourselves accountable. So in the last 7 days, how much movement have we had in this coin?
It's pulled back a bit. What we've seen is, I'm just looking at the moment, so 7 days ago was the start of May, so it was trading for around 38 cents on that day, and we're sitting here at around 33 cents at the moment, so it's down 5, 6, 7, 8, 9%. But what you'll find is when Bitcoin is rallying, and I think this is going to be a real Bitcoin market over the next few weeks to several months, is people are going to sell off altcoins to buy into Bitcoin. It's like a cycle. So people will sell off alts, buy Bitcoin, Bitcoin rallies, they sell off Bitcoin and buy alts. But I also think that what you're seeing with platforms like BAT and and BNB is when these dApps have got hundreds of thousands and millions of users using this token. It behaves in a bit of a different way. It seems to be anecdotally, certainly from my perception, a little bit uncorrelated to the movements of Bitcoin, and maybe that's users who are getting some BAT, selling it to buy Bitcoin because they're seeing Bitcoin go up. Maybe BAT had started to go up and they started to sell off because they wanted to get the most money they could. That's just some thoughts of mine. But this is going to be these platforms are going to be a long-term thing, and you're betting on these platforms growing in users. That is the primary bet.
Yeah, I think of course everything does follow Bitcoin, but you'll also see, this. As you said, they could sell out of one coin to get another. Now, we don't want to talk about Tether in this instance because that was kind of the tool of Tether, but
misallocated capital.
Well said. It's so distorted at the moment. You can't even count that one. But in the future, once we get this bull run, like an actual bull run like we did in sort of 2017, and it's not the first bull run that we've had in the entire crypto history, these strong altcoins will follow. They won't be selling out. You'll get these FOMOs coming in saying, well, what altcoin? Because of course, if you want to make 100x on a coin, you can really only do that now. It's probably a big call. Maybe I'll look back at history and regret these words. But if you only want to make 100x, it's really difficult to do it on Bitcoin. But if you get 100x on something that's got a very small market cap, so say you've got something with a market cap of $1 million, you only need 99 million more dollars to make it 100x, to get to $100 million. But if you've got a Bitcoin cap at the moment, what is it? It's around over, how many billion is it? The Bitcoin cap at the moment? Several billion.
Yeah, but Bitcoin is sitting at 104.9 billion.
So to make that into 100 times more, that's a lot of work. Not impossible, but a lot of work. And of course, we've seen this when people jump in with the altcoins. They're trying to get these massive returns, whereas Bitcoin is more of that blue chip share. Now, to check my own work, I was speaking about Skycoin last week, and looking at Skycoin when we were talking about it, it was selling for $1.13. I'm going off CoinLib, and it's now sitting at $1.15. So I got 4%. So that's one for me. Next week we'll try it again. So
nice
I've
work.
I know she just went up 2% in 7 days. But I think long term, I've actually reached out to the good people at Skycoin. I've done a big review on them, and I really want to talk to them. If it does half of what it says it does, says it can do, this thing is going to be massive. But moving forward, Bo, what do you want to look at for next week? What do you think is in a week ahead?
Yeah, look, what I want to just to bring to people's attention, this isn't so much of a like a weekly trade. I don't say much swing trade or day trade. I'm a long term, I guess, kind of value investor. But one thing that anyone that's followed me for a while is going to know is that I love Lisk, and been bullish on Lisk for a long time now, well over a year. Now, the reason I want to bring it to people's attention has really been the same as always, but these guys have really kicked a lot of goals in the past few months. So for those of you who don't know, Lisk is number 38 by market cap, despite not having an active platform that people can develop on yet. These guys have bounced around between probably 20 to 40 in market cap overall for 2 years. So that shows really the value that investors and stakeholders have in the system. That includes those delegates running nodes. Now, Lisk is a blockchain that's going to allow decentralized applications. The unique value proposition with Lisk is the ability to run sidechains. So every dApp is going to have its own customizable sidechain. The whole language is written in JavaScript, which is essentially what the modern, a lot of the modern internet or websites are built on. So many JavaScript developers that are familiar with coding in JavaScript for front ends of websites are going to be able to pick up Lisk very, very quickly without having to learn a new language, which is one of the barriers of entry with Solidity and Ethereum. And also, because you're going to have sidechains, they're going to be able to scale. So these sidechains are not going to impact the main chain. They're not going to put stress on the system per se. The other thing Lisk have done is they've gone about this in a really holistic fashion by building libraries. So when developers come in, they're going to have a full, nice GUI, a nice graphical user interface. You're going to have libraries of all these different elements they can use within Lisk, all preset there, ready for them to go. So these guys are really targeting the user experience for developers as the back end and also users at the front end. They're very close to releasing their Alpha SDK software development kit, which is going to be the major thing that developers need to start building decentralized applications on Lisk. So this has been in development for years and years now, maybe nearly 4 years. It's a very exciting project, as you can see from their team. Their team work for a third-party entity called Lightcurve. They need to do that legally to have that demarcation for the blockchain project to remain sufficiently decentralized. But you can see they've got a massive team. Most of the team, if not all of them, based in Germany. They work together. This is another thing that a lot of blockchain teams don't do, is work side by side. Remote work is fantastic, but there are, I think, certain productivity benefits you get from working in a team with people side by side. So, look, Lisk is a bullish project. It's currently trading at $1.73. They've got great liquidity. They've got 56 trading pairs. And in terms of their all-time high, they hit an all-time high of
$31.
$35 at one point. They're currently trading at $1.73.
Is that Australian or American?
US.
Cool. Yeah, mate, I'm actually glad you bring up Lisk. I love Lisk, the Germanness of it. Like I like my shoes, my pens, and my cars. I think the German team behind it, and I feel very satisfied that you mentioned this coin, because when I first got into the crypto space about 2 years ago, I made a video on my top 10, as many people were pumping out. And I put Lisk in that top 10. And I really thought I was alone on it. But then you recently made, a few months ago, you made a video. She's moving so quickly. It's probably a while ago.
That's probably about a year ago.
Sorry?
That's probably about a year ago now.
Gosh, I remember you put a video in there about staking it. And, rather than just keeping Lisk in a wallet and just waiting for it to raise, which you can do, but you can also... And correct me if I'm wrong, my crypto brother, but I can stake this coin and get returns on it that way.
I have made, since I started investing and staking the Lisk, I've probably made about 120 to 130 Lisk since I started staking. Now, at its all-time high, that'd be over $5,000 just sitting in a wallet. I mean,
and that's for doing nothing. You put in that initial work and you just sit there and just watch it grow.
Sit there. So that's like earning interest on a bank account.
Well, it's kind of double interest, because if you think you're not only getting the Lisk paid into it, but because it's an appreciating value in dealing with deflation, it's a deflationary income. It's backwards. Inflation, your money goes down. Deflation, your money goes up. So it's like this double hit. Now I'm going to put my 2 Satoshis into the market with my prediction. It's got to be Litecoin. So I'm kind of cheating here, guys. We've spoken about the halving coming up. We've spoken about the blue chipness, if that is such a description, of the Litecoin and how far it can go. I think Litecoin is a safe bet to watch it grow, whether it's the next week. And I'm the same with you, Bo. I don't do day trading. I don't do week trading. We're just having, I guess, a bit of fun here to see how we go with our weekly predictions. But before we move on to close off, I also wanted to mention ADA. So we know Cardano is a much loved altcoin, smart contract coin. Now, just recently, I think it's just today, the news came out, Mongolia comes into the Cardano space. So Charles Hoskinson, who you've done an interview with, he's actually gone over to Mongolia, and he's speaking with some of the really high-ranking people within the government, including apparently the president. Now, what they're looking at in Mongolia is they've got, the same inflationary issues that most currencies have, but that's not really what they're looking at Cardano for. They're looking at Cardano for the fact that they can do verification of many things, including medical fraud. So medicines is a huge issue where you think you're buying a certain medicine, and it's actually a tampered with medicine, a fake medicine, just like China does fake baby powder. And I don't know if you realize, in China, they do fake eggs and fake rice. So
Gross.
Yeah, I thought about eggs. Think about how much effort you need to go to make a fake egg.
Yeah,
Surely,
they make fake. I think they do fake eggs in Japan too. I might have eaten one accidentally, and if I did, it was delicious. But I still haven't been able to work out if it was fake or not.
dude, as long as you're still standing, it's all good. So, if I could pick a second one, and again, I'm probably cheating because Cardano, we love our Cardano. Everyone loves it, and it's such a low price at the moment, comparative to the movement that it can go forward. So, I'll stick with Litecoin just so I can only pick one. But please, crypto viewers, make sure you get out there and you look at the Cardano space. And I'll chuck one more in there just quickly. Zilliqa and Pepsi. That's also latest news just today out.
Pepsi?
Pepsi and Zilliqa. Have you heard about that?
No.
Okay, well, that looks like they're going to be doing some work together. And Zilliqa's
Wow.
kind of this little quiet beast out there, but check it out. And there could be, when it was announced, it went up 5% just today, just like that. So
That's incredible. Oh, yeah, here we go. I've got a tweet here in front of me. A pleasure to be working with PepsiCo and Mindshare. Together, we can unlock the benefits of blockchain and Pepsi Cola. No, just checking and smart contracts for business. Looking forward to building a project Proton, which can make advertising more transparent and efficient. Very interesting.
let's face it, Bo. These big boys, they're big players. They've got several choices. They can either stick their head in the sand and die.
Mm.
They can marry up with something like Ethereum or Cardano. They can make their own crypto. But in any case, if they want to survive or grow, basically, let alone just stay where they are, they have to adopt the blockchain. Whether it's their operating systems in the background or the currency in the way they're trading or the verification of making sure that we have these tampered with ledgers. Now, whether that ledger be pure accounting terms or the purity of a product such as medicine, blockchain is the future.
Blockchain is the future, and it's a good point that you raised there about these companies making a decision there. I think they're now getting to the point where they know if they leave it too long to retrospectively update their systems and decentralize certain things is going to be a mountain of work. So they're looking now for different protocols that they can form these strategic partnerships with to start building out that distributed system architecture for their own systems so they can scale that in the near future. Because if they leave it too long, they're going to have years and years of work in front of them and massive costs.
And the market won't wait for them. They'll simply collapse because the market speaks the truth, and there is no diplomacy in the market where they're just going to say, "Oh, we're all just going to stop growing so these late to market people can catch up." No.
The free market waits for no one.
Well said, mate. Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you again. This is so much fun. To the viewers and subscribers out there, remember we put 2 questions to you. First question is, do you have any questions? Pump them forward. But the second question is, what do we call this show? Is it the Stokesy and Stoner show, the Stoner and Stokesy show, the Stokesy and Stoner synopsis, or the Stoner and Stokesy synopsis? And if you
or give us some other ideas. It's got to be Stokesy and Stoner something.
Probably
an S would be cool.
Do you have a nick? Do they call you Stony at all, ever?
No, I've been called all sorts of names.
That's Stony.
All sorts of names. I don't want to say them here.
It's a family show. All right, we put it to you. I'll also leave a link in the description to my baby brains video, only because, and it's not a real baby, but it does actually highlight a year ago the relationship between Munger, Gates, and what's the other one? Munger, Gates, and
Buffett.
Thank you very much.
Buffet.
You're the right side of my brain, bringing in the bits I miss. Have you got anything you want to check out there? Anything more, Stoney?
No, look, just a thanks to everyone for watching. Really appreciate the feedback that we got on the last video. I think I got 100% likes, which is amazing, and a lot of really good comments. And I know I and Adam, we really appreciate that. As small creators, as guys that are doing other stuff on the side that take the time to do this because we enjoy it. It means a lot, and ultimately we're doing it because we love it. We're also doing it because we think it's valuable information, and we're doing it because the community likes it. I mean, that's the honest. If everyone hated it, I don't think we'd be here doing a second episode. So, just a big thanks to you guys for that support, and all you can do to help show support for the show is the likes go a long way. And don't hesitate to leave a comment to tell us what you think. And if you have any ideas for future articles or suggestions to things, we're always going to take that on board.
Agreed. And I also thank my subscribers who've given us a thumbs up. I've also got 100% likes on this as well. And note on the two channels, there's a slightly different version of editing at this stage. Bo is releasing one type, and I'm releasing it's the same footage, but I've being a bit OCD with my bloody editing, which I've got to get out of. I'm putting banners down the bottom, and the banners down the bottom, if you want to fast forward through a part of the video, if you're referring it to a friend, or you want to just simply fast track to a point that's interesting to you. One of the subscribers made a comment, and I thank you for that comment, where he said, I really appreciate you putting the banners down the bottom, because the banner enabled him to see exactly what we were talking about when, and so when he revisited it and or forward it to a friend, he could just say, fast forward to the bit about Tether or India or whatever we were talking about last week.
Well, what we could do in the future is put some timestamps on our videos too, so we can, when we share that, people can just click on like you can link certain times of the video, and then people can share those if they want to just discuss a certain thing.
Yeah, it's a good point, because it's difficult, when many people watch videos in the background. I don't know why I do. I don't know how you watch them, Bo, but I very rarely actually sit down and just look at a screen and watch a video. I sort of listen to it in the background. But in saying that, I think the average time you mentioned, the average viewing time is around 15 to 20 minutes. So a 30 to 40 minute sitting or listening is quite a big ask for any viewer of any channel.
That's a good point. And actually, if this show continues to get views and good feedback, and in some respects grows, maybe we could consider uploading this as a podcast as well, actually just converting it to audio, and we can do video and a podcast, and then people can listen to it on the go, or put it in their cars, or listen to it on the train or whatever, without having to actually watch the video on YouTube.
Yeah, that's and it uses less data, of course, when you're
Sure.
doing it mobile, which most people do. And by the way, if you are listening to channels mobile and you're unfamiliar with how it works on YouTube, make sure you go to the top right corner of a YouTube video, click on the little banner that enables you to watch it in lower quality. So if you're streaming on your phone in for example 720p, or I think even 1080, you're using a lot more data than if you go right down to the 144. So to save data, what I always do is I pump down the quality right down to 144 if it's only audio.
Yeah, that's a good point, Adam. If you lower the quality, you just may not get the warmth, delicious tone of our amazing voices. That's just okay.
Not to mention our good looks, but you won't be looking anyway.
Very true. Well, I think that's a good little point to end things there. Adam, sir, thank you for your time. Really enjoyed episode number 2, and I can't wait for episode number 3. And to all of you guys, thank you for watching. Adam, closing remarks before we finish.
Thanks for listening. Happy investing. I'll talk to you next time.
Cheers, guys.